Theatre can be learned in two ways. One, you can go to an institute or just go and write and perform.
A performer is born in their 40s. So, what are they doing before that? They're training.
The last 3 years, I discover the real reasons why I do theatre have appeared to me only now.
Like the problem with most of us are when we enter into a performance, we bring certain tools that is part of our mannerism. The point is how to break that in time.
We constantly talk about, I become a character. But there exists a possibility that you can make the audience become something.
You mentioned that for about 3 years you were doing Kathakali and Kalaripayattu. Does it still come in handy?
It was the first time that I felt I had a purpose.
Can acting be learned? The craft can be learned. But what makes it tangible is your imagination. So imagination, I don't know if you can learn it.
Hello and welcome to another episode of Unscripted with Akarsh Khurana, an Aadyam podcast produced by M&M Talkies. One thing that a lot of young thespians are looking for is a way to teach themselves how theatre works. And I think it is quite easy to go down this rabbit hole of all the various methodologies that exist. In today's episode, we'll be speaking about at least a couple of them. On one hand, we have Adishakti, deeply rooted in tradition with their own unique style, frame of work, and of course, a space for research. And on the other hand, we have a very different perspective, one that stems from global influences, yet remains culturally rooted. And hopefully, by the end of this conversation, we'll have some insight into the process of learning theatre. So please welcome Vinay Kumar, Nimmy, Raphael, and Atul Kumar. Yeah, seated between two Kumars. Before getting into talking about like more, research and training, I wanted to discuss something which is prevalent in theatre per se, and of course you all have that, which is mentorship. Clearly, and clearly, Veenapani Chawla has been a great mentor for a lot of people, including perhaps Atul and others. But it would be really nice if the two of you could talk a little bit about her and what she stood for and what the main takeaway. Of course, there's everything. But what the main takeaway from someone like her was for you, and just as mentors, I'm assuming she is a mentor figure to both of you in a very big way. So if you could talk a little bit about her, and then Atul will have to think of a mentor that he wants to talk about.
Yes.
So
sure.
yeah.
I think I right now I hear this. We use the term mentor very loosely,
Right.
and I think for me it I want to say guru,
Yes.
and I think that has more depth into it. And I think for me, Veenapani as my guru is someone who sees a possibility beyond who you are, and that requires time. And I think mentorship can only happen through a consistent amount of time that you spend with your
Together.
guru.
Yes.
And that would mean that you are allowing your mentor to shape yourself,
Right.
and also to push to a place where you are uncomfortable, because we are born with that sense of uncertainty. When you decide to act, when you decide to go on stage, when you decide to explore something, that space is not very comfortable, because we are very uncertain about what we do, and there is the mind that comes in and it stops everything that the body wants
Yes.
to do. And if there is impulsively you do something, it just stays for that improvisation. So the mentor who sees that spark, she holds it in her head and uses that possibility to further yourself. And therefore I think that's what Veenapani did for me, to show me a space where things can exist. What I learned from that is that one doesn't have to be scared of failure.
Right.
I think we are living in a world where perfection we have kept at a pedestal, and we all suffer from it. And I think as artists, the capability and the understanding that one can fail, and fail beautifully, and fail multiple times,
Right.
and I think that can only happen in front of a mentor who you can trust.
Yes.
Oh, my time is a life-changing one because I met Veenapani in Kerala because my teacher at that time working with her in her play called Savitri. And then he has some family issues. He couldn't come. So Veenapani asked, can I cast me? And he said, happily. He said, go
Okay.
away. So I came here and worked till, we are staying here in Santa Cruz and working till
Oh, in Bombay, that was okay.
91 to 96 we are here. But by 95, once Savitri leg is over, Veenapani decided that she's done with theatre and she wants to shift back to ashram, that is in Pondicherry. Okay. So she said, I'm winding up here. I'm going to. So I said, what the hell am I going to do? I just taken everything from Kerala. So then there is this possibility that to study for MA courses in theatre because we have a theatre department. So I said, okay, I'll also tag along. I will join the MA courses. Already I completed the BTA. So let's try. At that time, if you take a PhD, then you can be
Yes.
getting lots of jobs in National School of Drama and allied places. So okay, that may be my destiny. I tagged along and I joined the theatre course. And Veenapani started slowly shifting and studying herself to the ashram and doing ashram work. Once in a while we meet. But after 4 months, I realized that what I learned for my degree course is what exactly I'm learning for MA, nothing new. And it's very frustrating. So I just went back to Veenapani and said, Veenapani, this is not on. You need to do a play for me. I came all along trusting you can't do that. And that's why she decided to step back from the ashram journey one. And I think she's also not yet ready for that one because she realized that without doing theatre,
Yeah.
she don't survive. And so that's a correct moment. Synergy happened. We decided, and then our first play is born absolutely an accident, and we used to get this annual massage, martial art massage. So we went to this like a very remote village in Kerala. We carried like 6-7 books, and we thought that it's last till the 15 days. But 4th day, Veenapani's tuck is over. And she used to stare. I'm reading a very famous Malayalam book. And I relish and leisurely I'm reading it. She jealously looked at it. And 3rd day she said, okay, translate for me because I have nothing left. So it's a very famous book called Second Chance by a well-known writer who just recently died. It's about looking at the entire Mahabharata from Bhima's perspective.
Okay.
And that, my own broken English, I translated 200 page of Malayalam. I don't know what she perceived it. Whichever way, it's inspired her to create a script that's our first plays. So actually, that process, what I'm trying to say is I had a 4-year training in theatre, but at the end of it, quite confused and disillusion is not there because these are most of the methods that we are hearing is hearsay. It's not a first-hand experience to pass. So like a bit from here, bit from here, bit from here. And it can get confusing. And my 4th semester is European theatre. And then I finished like 15 plays. I'm just absolutely drained in a sense that as a performer, I'm not start enjoying it. But then when I go to my village and see a folk performer who can do a whole performance whole night, he can sit around, smoke a cigarette, have one peg, come back and do next 2 hours.
Yeah, of course.
And they are having a blast.
Yeah.
I'm saying, what? Is the content is killing us?
Yeah.
Is the intellectuality is the content is what killing us? Or why aren't we enjoying our own performance? Yes, of course, the thali, we enjoy it. We enjoy the clap. But so that's where I'm also in a lookout for an alternative way of thinking, looking at performance, not taking like this pedestal series one, rather, let me have a blast. Let me have a performance energy. At the same time, I have the ability to think about the cinema I'm going to watch tomorrow.
Yeah.
I'm saying that's not the process, but as an example.
Oh, that's amazing. Yeah. Yeah.
Inspiring.
And so, yes, speaking about mentors, Atul, who's been an important influence in your theatrical life?
बहुत मुश्किल है यार, very difficult to answer that. I realize the worth of what both Nimmy and Vinay just said about time, space, and singularity, the kind of groundedness which Adishakti has had. With me, in spite of me even imagining a place like Kamshet, that has never happened. I don't know the reason, though I understand the worth of being grounded in something and then going deeper.
Yes.
I have not I've never been able to do that. My earlier influences were, of course, City Theatre of Delhi, where my mentor was K. Madhavan, a wonderful gentleman who had worked with French theatre. And that is the reason why I took on to study French, because I wanted to go to France and study the literature in its original language. That's why I...
Which you did.
Yes,
So-
I studied French, culture, civilization, and language, and then in JNU. And then I went to France, where I worked with Philippe Gentil. He is a wonderful, originally an architect and engineer who made larger than life puppets, visual theater. So for 3 years, I worked with him. I closely followed Peter Brook's journey and his writings. I never met him in my life. So he was a sort of a throne for me. And then coming back, I realized that I need to search in my own country for, to find a mentor, to find a direction. I tried getting into NSD, but those were the days when Ratan Thiam Saab was the director, and there were more strikes than classes.
Right.
So I got disillusioned. Found myself in Kerala. From Delhi, I took a Kerala Express, which ran for 3 days, 2 nights, and got me there. I met a wonderful gentleman called Kavalam Narayan Panikar, and he took me in his theatre group. And I started working with him. I started translating. He wanted to do one of his Malayalam plays in Hindi for some strange reason. So I started translating with him. I was with him for 6 months. And again, it didn't work out with him very well. But in the process, I discovered Kathakali and Kalaripayattu.
Right.
So I stayed back in Kerala for about 3.5 years. And in Trivandrum, I had 2 ashans, 2 teachers who I could call probably the biggest influence of my theatre learning, and of course Kalari. So those were really strong years of my formation. Then there was a lot of travel again to France, to America, to different parts of the country, finally landing up in Bombay, making my own theatre group. My biggest stint of theatre making was with this fantastic man called Rajat Kapoor,
Yes.
whose friendship I valued right from my initial days, because he's the one who brought me into Chingari.
In Delhi,
In Delhi,
yes.
I was 15 years old, and
Oh, that early.
he
Wow,
made
okay.
me do a Marx Frisch play, which is an absurd play in a language which I didn't know very well, English, because I'm a Hindi speaker. I come from Old Delhi, so I just learnt my dialogues. I didn't even know what the play meant, and I performed it at Shriram Center. So with him, I mean, no wonder we've created plays in gibberish post
Absolutely.
that. So yeah, with him it was a long journey exploring Shakespeare in clown format. So as you can see, I mean, there's been a huge number of mentors and influences. Veenapani was huge because her teachings, her theories, the workshop that I attended, whatever little time that and as Vinay said, the work that I kept learning from. And then, of course, there is a huge influence of Commedia and Chaplin and Keaton and the silent era of cinema, the circus clown. All this has been hugely, yeah, there you go.
Popped up there. Yeah.
Yeah.
So, as a
So-
core memory. So, yeah. And so, I mean, clearly, all of you are people that have kind of, I don't want to use the word formal, but have been trained in various. There has been a choice of getting training, which is something that a lot of actors do look for, but perhaps don't know where to look for or don't know how to go. For example, how were you managing to go to France, and what were you doing that was making all that possible for you?
I think all these travels abroad are possible, actually even more today, because we didn't have internet then, and mobility was not so cheap and easy.
Right.
But the French embassy in Delhi, they had a Department of Culture sort of a thing, cultural embassy they call it, and they had grants and scholarships. Now everything is online and you can see and apply and you can get them. At that time they existed, but one had to sort of search a little more. I saw Philippe Gentil perform
Right.
in
And then there was something you wanted to follow.
1989. They came to Delhi, and so I wrote to them. I wrote a letter which took about 20 days to reach Paris. Then they replied, took another month to come to me. So yeah, it was like not an email.
Yeah,
But it
which is
happened,
now
yeah.
possible. And
Yeah.
Wow. But as in, y'all, all three of you would very strongly stand by the fact that training is absolutely necessary. Like some sort of formal training instead of, because there's a whole lot of actors who just join theatre companies and are thrown onto stage, or are led to believe that doing backstage is training. Sometimes they're asked to pay for it, but that, sweep the floors, get us tea, one day you will be an actor.
Right.
But clearly, that's one way of thinking. But you all would recommend, as people who would be listening, young theatre enthusiasts, that they should go find some sort of formal
I
system.
I think what training does is it shows you discipline. And I think discipline is necessary. I feel it's necessary because it's like doing housework. You have to do your housework every day and nobody really sees it,
Yeah.
You have to clean it. You have to clean the surface every day. And I think what it does, training does, is cleaning that surface, which is the body. And at some point, the imagination just frees. It just frees itself to make some things possible. So I think
Right.
that's what discipline and training does. When you do, this is what my understanding of tradition is, that you won't become a performer in a very traditional sense until and unless you have gone through a rigorous training of 8 to 9 years, and then you're going on stage. It's very different right now, but
Yes.
then you required that kind of time. And that, what it does is, in the repetition, you're repeating the same movement over and over and over again, and in the repetition something happens. So I believe training is necessary for that taking off to happen, because we keep saying a performer is born in their 40s. So what are they doing
Wow,
before
okay,
that?
Yeah.
They're training. They're training to go through the failures. They're training to see what are the brokenness of the body, what and all the instrument. It has to go through certain changes in order for it to get somewhere.
Do you feel similarly, Vinay?
No, I'm saying I'm all for saying that. If I say training is not needed, I will be run out of my business and profession. So I will vouch for it. No, but I'm saying what kind of training? Because anybody want to be an actor, we tend to look at a very formalized training as a first step. I would say my formative years of using my body is not even come from theater. It's play. I will say my body is shaped because I used to play cricket, and we used to have 2 wicket keepers. Okay, and we are constantly in competition. So my idol at that time is called a person called Jeff Dujon. If anybody remember, so even a simple catch, he will do a somersault and take it. And I just started copying it. And so even though he's very good, the other one is very good in collecting spin, fast bowling, he sucks. So, and people used to, when we go for tournaments, they used to love all the jumping around.
The performance.
So it's an absolute performance.
Yeah.
So even like a simple catch, you take a somersault and stand up. It's like and best wicket keeper award is there. And I really played into the gallery to get that 3 consecutive years. I got but what later I realized, my entire physical body at that time I employed in something way I think I pushed it in every corner possible. Like we every Saturday Sunday we used to have a tournament. So endurance is morning to evening, standing under sun and playing is what maybe shaped my body.
Right.
Now if I go into a formal training person, that's what you don't agree with me. But as a trainer, I can tell you that's what helped me into subsequently opening up myself to learn other forms. So even like we had a show in New York, and there is one very famous art historian, study person called Richard Shainer. And Shainer asked what inspired this play or your work in order to create Bruhanala. And in my sincerity, I told Tom and Jerry. He is expecting high funda like a Kalaripayattu and other thing, but that's actually. So I'll tell you an anecdote or a story that we used to do it, because every play before we start, Veenapani take a stack of Tom and Jerry and show us the particular visual. Remember, Tom is chasing Jerry, Jerry vanishes. Tom reaches an intersection of 3 roads, and suddenly one head goes here, one body, one leg goes as freeze and come back, and then Veenapani said, I want your body to be like this. We know that is impossibility. But moment you keep that image, you
Mind,
start
yeah, yeah.
creating images closer to that, and it's manifest in a different way. So what training allow you to have that visual images of your director, you will have a vessel to translate. And
Right.
that need a kind of agility of the mind, agility of the physicality is very important, because remember, we are copy paste people. We see visuals all over. We are trained, and a kind of time we are living in, we don't even, mind is reaching a saturation point. You don't even want to create a stimulative visual script, because everything is available. All I just need to cut and paste it. That itself is affecting a lot of qualitative performances of a lot of people. You can see, oh, this I've seen it in hundreds of people.
That's
What is
true.
new? And that's what I'm saying. Training is a must. Any kind of training is there. Luckily, my that period, everything is an excitement. Bruce Lee is there, so everybody want to be a karate player. So we go to all karate classes.
Yeah.
So this plethora of physical activity is planned, because we get out of the home around 7 o'clock, and we only lands back 5 o'clock. Our parents need to come and pick up. They will search in every bushes and open ground. Finally, will find us in some ground. I think that liberty is not there anymore for
Yeah.
the entire generation of people. How to use the body.
What do you think? What's your take on this, Atul?
To begin with, just to wear the black hat, there are so many performers in Bombay that you and I have worked with, Akash, who have had no training.
Yeah, that was my
Absolutely
next
no
question. Yeah.
training. They were mentioning Sheba, for example. What a fantastic performer, but she's never had any formal training.
Right.
I mean, she danced Odissi for a very few years, but very early in her life. And then after that, there was just simply getting Namit Das, Neil Bhopalam. I mean, there are so many actors who have not had serious, sustained theatre training. And we've seen them perform brilliantly on stage. But obviously, what they're talking about is something else. It's more of a spiritual journey, mind and body
Yeah.
within the space.
And I think
that
just
we're talking
rigor
of.
and disclion
Yes,
in any form.
and I'm sure they also have their own rigor, because Namit, for example, sings.
Yes.
I remember him singing. We were in north of England performing same play, Hamlet the Clown Prince, and every morning he would do his riyaz for 2 hours and wake us, all of us up. But yeah, I think all these are various ways of arriving at the same point. I missed it. I wanted a sustained training for myself, but as I said, I never got.
But you had a fair
Yeah,
amount
well,
of.
as I said, it was varied. You know,
Right, right.
I kept
It wasn't one
jumping
thing, so,
and
yeah.
skipping. I could never do the deep dive in my life, which I thoroughly missed. I still miss, and I would, since you're talking about youngsters, I would say, yeah, I mean, be aware of that. It's to latch on to something and to stay with it, and to have that patience to see how deep it can take you and not spread yourself thin, as I think I would have in my life. I wish I had stuck on to certain things. The other thing I wanted to say is, we talk of craft, we talk of our tool sets. There is also another mentorship, training, education that goes on, and that is simply life.
Right.
You know, as how open are we to what's happening around in the world, what's happening in our country, in the community, literally in our theater community, and ourselves. And to tell you the truth, it's now that I'm 56 years old and going through a very important phase of my life as an artist, as a person. In the last 3 years, I discover the real reasons why I do theater have appeared to me only now. And till now, I was just going with the breeze, you know, with the wind, wherever it was taking me. And I was really concerned about only techniques and, you know, tools and all that. So one never really looked inward, which I think with a journey like theirs with Veena starts, as she said,
starts with looking inward. Yeah,
it starts,
sure.
it goes in tandem.
Yeah.
Which is what did not happen with a urban theater maker like me.
Correct.
I was running too fast, and I was running away from things which I was not even aware of. And in the interim, I found this art form, this job, theater that happened, and you called me force to reckon with, but I don't even know what that force was. No, seriously. I mean, I in the last 3 years, I've gotten into psychotherapy, which it's something that I completely kept away. And I thought I know myself as a person, as an artist, as a father, as a partner, as a community member, as a director to so many artists who've worked with me in this city. It's to reevaluate all of that. That is probably the biggest learning and education that I'm having in my entire career, I would say. It's been a complete reawakening. So it's only a beginning, and we don't have much time left. I'm 56 years old. I hope this can now sort of
Evolve
go
into
deeper,
something, yeah.
evolve, and it can influence my work in the future, in time to come. So that's something which I think all youngsters have to just completely keep themselves open.
To
Yes.
that. Yeah. No, I mean, it's all a rite of passage at the end of the day, and it will take its. But like, speaking of that, like this, what this may impact, say, the work you do now. Because we were talking about training. I mean, you mentioned that for about 3 years you were doing Kathakali and Kalaripayattu. Do you find that influences or affects your work as an actor? Does it still come in handy?
Absolutely.
In terms of physicality?
Absolutely. Physicality, more than that, discipline, as she said.
Right.
It was actually the first time that I got into the whole act of, I was on the floor 2 hours of Kalari, of course, early in the morning, and then 6 hours of doing Kathakali non-stop. With one of my ashans at least. So I mean, and every day. So
Right,
it was the first time that I felt that I had a purpose, that I had to look forward to a routine, and that I had to like step up to it. So during Udichal, you call it? During Udichal, during the monsoons, the massage that my Ashan would give, he would obviously ask us to eat certain way, not sleep in the afternoon. I remember he told me, and it was be torturous. And then the most torturous thing would be he would say, "No contact with your wife."
Abstinence, yeah. So,
He'll say, "No contact."
No, God. No touchings.
I wanted to ask, and I think that it's moving a little bit away from the training aspect of it, but in terms of what you all create, you and you all, I mean, there's a very different approach in terms of like my awareness of whatever I have seen or heard of is that you all kind of go quite like a deep dive into an Indian context or an Indian culture to kind of come up with, work and stories that you want to tell. And is that a very conscious decision?
Yes.
It is. Is that
Yes.
something that you all? So how do you go about selecting that? I understand there was the broken English translation that led to one play, which is a great story. But now, like for example, how do you choose what inspires you to tell a story, and do you ever kind of look beyond that and want to not necessarily tell a story from, say, which is connected to my mythology in some manner?
Okay, whatever I'm going to say is very subjective.
Yeah, sure, of course.
Yeah, for all art aesthetics are. So, for Veenapani and me, all our early career is steeped in creating either Greek tragedies or Rene or Ionesco. These are the places we done it. We done to a point, and after a point you feel that disconnect because you reach in you reach in a context that is so different. Your problems are different, and you reach in a place where we started seeing that exactly the pluralistic narrative of our myth that forms our past, pretty much what we function on it. Every single thing, if you go to this end of the street to that end of the street, works on myth, not on now.
And I also think, emotions are very universal, meaning like we say those emotions through words which are familiar to our language. And I think that's the only difference. So I think in Europe or in West, wherever, they have talked about or created a mythology which was familiar to them, which is, they've just lended their emotion to to those particular stories. And I think we also are doing the same. So when we are creating a play, we are talking about the universality of this emotion. The concerns are similar everywhere, I feel.
Yes, of course.
It's just the stories as to what is familiar to me. And myth is only a peg. You just only hang on it so that there is already a framework. And you're playing against something. You're just not shooting it in the dark. So there's always a dialogue that's possible. And I think that's how I also see it.
Yeah, that's what I was saying. Like, because you're now an independent creator also, and you're writing and you're directing. Do you find yourself also drawn to using that peg? Is that a starting point for you? Is that usually
see, the thing is, I get very easily bored by realism. I feel there's enough to look at in life already. It doesn't excite me as much.
Right.
So I am. I like things which would make me depressed. I don't know what to do. I
lovely line for the trailer.
We live with that.
Gonna get a lot of traction.
I can't watch anything with her because the most darkest and
I like it when there is lots of uncertainty when I create something and I don't know. I have absolutely no idea what I'm going to do. So I like to be there. And when I finish something, I feel like I've crossed a bridge, and I like to take that big breath.
Yes.
And I think only mythology allows me to do that. Nothing else. As it could be the limitation of my own mind, but right now only mythology allows me that.
Atul, I think that a lot of your work and mine as well. I think that perhaps the influence of the global time that you spend is quite evident in terms of the choices that we make. Do you is that conscious? Is that something that you're drawn more to, say, international texts that then of late, and I have seen, not of late actually, for a while, you do kind of recontextualize it very well. There's a lot of adaptation that happens to make it very accessible to us, and including, folk forms and other things. But the root is, there's Shakespeare or there's the West. And do you find that that's something that you are drawn towards? How does that work for you?
I think it's, I think I am drawn towards that. Accessibility, I think it could just be also laziness to not pick up some texts from Marathi literature or Gujarati or Punjabi literature. There's so much in India, or literature from South.
Right.
Yeah, I think.
Have you done that though? Have you worked with original Indian texts at any?
We've done a few. Yes,
Okay.
we've done a few. I have directed a few. I've acted in a few. And we've also devised, no?
Right.
We've also done a lot of devising
Sure.
work, like C for Clown or the Blue Mug. Blue Mug is
Blue Mug,
entirely
yes.
one of my most favorite productions of
I
mine.
remember that,
and,
yes.
it's all about us, about memory and memory lawn. But then again, it was inspired by a book by Oliver Sacks,
Right.
The Man Who Mistook His Wife for a Hat. But then we took that trigger from there and went straight in our own personal memories and memory losses. So yeah, it's not a conscious decision, but I let myself float whatever comes my way. For the longest time, I've been wanting to work with the sound of Sarangi, for example,
Right.
and the Legend of Heer by Waris Shah.
Oh, okay.
That's something that I started with Nimrat, actually.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, and I told her, we'll keep it. When you stop being a film star, we'll pick it up again. So things like that. There are many things which one has. My biggest dream project, I keep telling, Mantra, is addressing Mahabharat, which I think probably everybody. I'm hugely influenced by Carrier's Mahabharat, which Brooke did. I think it was a great interpretation, and I would again see.
Sure.
My first instinct is to go
even
for Mahabharat to Carrier. Yeah. So.
No, but I do think that a lot of your the work does kind of borrow heavily even from like Indian folk spaces. I've seen you bring, like, there is a very Punjabiyat to Bagi Alvele.
Or Piya Bherupya, which is I grew up in Mathura and Vrindavan with my great grandfather taking me to watch Ras.
Right.
I grew up performing in Ramlila.
Oh, really?
myself.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
In North India. So yeah, the roots. I mean, I'm from Old Delhi. I grew up around those areas of Chandni Chowk and Kinari Bazaar and Nai Sadak. So those first 20 years was just that. So those are the strongest formative years.
We have something like a rapid fire section, but I'm not a very rapid person. So
Thank Lord.
we call it
Please.
slow burn. But before that,
So we
there's
can take our own time.
yeah, as I will. But no, before that, there's just one last kind of broad question that I want to kind of open to you all before we go into those specifics, which is, of course, I mean, Adishakti itself is a training space, and you all are doing a lot of this holistic work. But what is, according to you and in all your travels around the country, what is the state of theatre education in our country? And is there anything, institute or course that you think is doing a good job where people can actually go and, barring Adishakti, of course, because we'll promote ourselves shamelessly, but but I'm saying that is there, what are the avenues that are open to young theatre people who might be looking to not just be born onto stage, and go and kind of get some work done? What is the state of theatre education in our country actually as it stands?
One of my batchmate who studies in NSD, and then he became a assistant professor. He shifted back to that institution, and whatever our collective dreams, now he is pushing it back, getting.
And which institute is
It's
this?
called Thrissur Drama School.
Okay, Thrissur. Okay, yes.
So
He's
like
talking of Abhilash Pillai.
Abhilash Pillai, yes.
Abhilash, Royston, we all
Yes.
at the same time studied there. So he's making is not anymore a regional training institution. Rather, he's looking at a pan-Indian students to come. So students from all over the other states is going there.
Oh,
This is the
lovely.
only where there is a degree courses offered. All
Okay.
others are diploma.
Okay.
Okay. So that's point number one. But it's all, an institution is depend on who is heading
Running
it.
Yes, yes.
And that person need to have a vision. And that vision need to go beyond themselves. We are lucky enough when that institution started, it's a dream of a collective group of writers, musicians, filmmakers. And that's how they created that institution. It's not a university made it, but at that, whoever the think tank of that time, and like award-winning filmmakers.
But back then it was Kerala centric.
In Kerala centric.
Okay.
But they want to create a space where all these forms, like a theatre people and cinema people and painters, can all come together and to talk about performative. And that's, I think all institutions starts like that. At the end of the day, theatre is a practiced one. It's not a degree-giving place.
Yes.
If you don't pump in practitioners, and if you look at it from an academic perspective, it goes into academic. So I can take Loka and give you a dissertation and talk for next 8 hours.
Correct.
But that's not going to make you a fantastic performer.
Right.
It can stimulate your academic intelligence. And I think most institutions' problem is you don't pump in practitioners.
Right.
And that practitioner may not have even a language, a linguistic language to explain to you, but they have a form.
Yeah.
Unless institution comes in this diverse group of people, then you are just offering an academic level of interest only. So first we need to decide what are you looking for to get a job,
Yes.
or to be a theatre person.
To be a creator, yeah. So
Theatre can be learned in two ways. One, you can go to an institute or just go and grind and perform.
actually, I think that it's it is eventually going to be led by the choice of what the person wants to achieve.
Yeah.
Yeah, of course, it's always up for debate as to how much the academics is going to really help you, but exposure is always great. Even NSD, I've had people on the podcast from NSD
Yeah.
who may not be very happy with the state of affairs there right now, but they said that in their time there, at least what they were exposed to changed their life.
No,
It's just opening your mind, like you were saying,
Yeah.
being receiving. So yeah,
One point I just said, like the problem with most of us are when we enter into a performance, we bring certain tools that is part of our mannerism
yes,
and is very appealing.
yes,
The point is how to break that in time.
right.
And that's where all this knowledge system come into. Otherwise, what you become predictable after a point. I know what you are going to do,
Going to do,
and you are less interesting to me.
Right.
And that's why actors need to look at every possible. I'm saying don't restrict into a structured institution.
Yes.
Anything learn. Now, earlier my preoccupation is to learn traditional forms, but now I'm learning something that is completely opposite, from mathematics to neurobiology to want to learn because we are talking to a spectator who are all this. Artists can't be just talk about acting alone. And that's not going to expand your horizon. And your horizon means you need to start learning everything that is available. That's also a good way of understanding how as a performer you can grow also.
Again, it's one's own pursuit as to what you want to really become. And if you really want to become a performer, that is also about making your body a living archive of some sort. That would mean that you start at a point and then you're continuing to accumulate certain things, and we are all that archive. We can pull things out from our constant engagement with multiple things that we have done in the past and what we do right now. So I think a performer should be a living archive.
Wow.
When we say archive, we feel that it's a dead space, but I think for a performer it should be the other way around.
Right.
And I think the aspiration should be to become that, to become a pod of many things.
Yes. Wow.
And
Okay, that's a
I
lovely
think
thought,
by doing that, what it does is we constantly talk about I become a character, and I'm not a propagator of that. I don't, or at least it has not happened to me. Let me just say that I have not become nothing even when I play a character, but there exists a possibility that you can make the audience become something.
Wow.
Right? So the audience would become the character that you're playing.
That's beautiful.
And that is only possible when you become that archive. So in the archival process, you are using all your tools in order to make the audience feel what you feel. Right? Otherwise, it's just a radio play.
Wow.
Right? So I feel it really is about what you want to become, where your direction of your journey you want to take. And for that, apprenticeship is very good. To surrender oneself and say that it's tough to do right now because there are 100 things that are happening. Just saying that if I want to become a performer, I'm just going to take out that 4 years of my time.
Right.
And I follow something and not get diverted in 100 different things, because that becomes like, how you put coconut oil. When you put coconut oil, it just spreads on the skin. It doesn't go deep. But on the other hand, if you put sesame oil, it goes deep down. So I think you have to become sesame oil. You have to just do one thing and then find,
Mallus will have a problem.
Yeah, and I think that's how. So the thing was, can acting be learned? I think it can be learned. The craft can be learned. But what makes it tangible is your imagination. So imagination, I don't know if you can learn it.
Atul, anything to add to that?
There is a lot happening in Northeast now. I mean, if you look at all these major competitions that happen of theatre, like Meta and all, so much is coming
So
from
much is coming from there.
so much exciting work. I've been teaching in NSD Delhi for some time. I teach them farce.
Okay.
And I'm noticing that after some of the most exciting teachers have actually shifted to Abhilash's school in South India, NSD still has students who come who are very hungry for knowledge, and they actually push teachers. They source teachers. They try and convince the admin to bring people in. So they're hungry for knowledge and to learn. Not to forget the drama school Bombay. My goodness, Jehan has done an amazing work creating this place. I mean, I have used so many actors who've come out of
DSM,
yes. But as you said, these are places where you can perhaps taste. A door can open up for you. It's only a beginning. Then the journey is after that yours.
Right.
I keep telling this to students, especially students who are coming out of DSM and NSD, that please explore Pro Helvetia, please explore Max Miller, British Council, French Cultural Center. I mean, travel around the world, and it's easier now, which was much more difficult then.
Back then, yeah.
I think when they're in their 20s, early 30s, it's a time when you can if you look at all these greats who I was influenced by, be it Kavalam Narayan Panikar or Ratan Tiyam Sahab or Habib Sahab, they all had a stint which was international. So there were influences
Right.
that were there. Of course, they found their own voice locally when they came back here. But yeah, I think it's something that young can do. It's available now much more. Yeah. To just cap it all, there is also, just so that people know, there are young theatre people, and we are sitting in a place which has like some 50,000 theatre spaces now.
Yes.
I mean, just look at this, and I was
Aram
telling you,
Nagar,
this new
yes.
theatres come up.
Yeah.
There are so many places over here that they're all houseful in the evening.
Yes.
In the daytime, there are studios. In the night, you might have a performance here,
Yeah.
where we are sitting right now. Is there one today?
I think Mantra's
There
book,
is.
I
There
think
is
the
a performance.
podcasters booked the place till the
Ah.
evening. So we've killed one theatre performance.
No, but the fact is that they're there, and Indian government has grants that many people are not very aware of, and of course you have to go through some red tape.
Yeah, I was surprised you said that with a straight face. But
Yes. No, both Adishakti and the company theatre, we've been receiving government grants, and
Okay.
and they're public knowledge, and they're all on their website, and there are possibilities for young theatre makers to create theatre
No, you
spaces.
need to tap every
have a
resource as possible.
we
These are
have
all
to-
dream questions we asked.
yeah.
Now, sustainability is something else. Is
Absolutely.
this is a very romantic concept of learning anything. How to sustain is a beast altogether.
Yes.
So that will be doing next podcast.
That's the next topic.
Yeah. So we can.
I'll move to our slow burn section. We'll
Oh,
have
yeah.
very few questions there, and then we'll see if there are any questions from the audience that are here. Very simple questions for each one of you to answer. The first one is that not your own work, but a recent Indian production that you have watched in the theatre that you have really liked. Something you have watched, the last good Indian play that you saw, which you did not produce yourself. I know that's tough.
No, it's not. Not at all. मैं बोलूं?
Please, because वो सोच रहे हैं.
Hmm.
तो
Two for me, actually, because one got to see them recently.
right.
One is Mezok by Jyoti Dogra.
Yes, right.
Was immensely stunning performance, and the
Yeah.
other is Mohit's new play that he's done with
The Nether?
Nether. Yes,
Yes.
both absolutely stunning performances for me.
Lovely.
I think last year I watched the show from Katekut, which is not Katekut, the show from Palani's show, which is about Abhimanyu trying to come out of the Chakravyuh.
Chakravyuh, yeah.
And it was mind blowing. I was so happy and exhilarated, and I very rarely give up food for anything, and I
Wow.
couldn't eat.
Oh.
I was so full. And it stayed with me.
I recently means like within 1 year there's a play called Molaga Podi. It's called Chili Powder.
Yeah, I know.
It's done by a group of trans women. It's one of the kick-assest play. I saw it on orientation play, gender play. It's there. Last year they performed it, and some of the actors shipped it. But it's
This was
amazing.
in what language?
Tamil only.
Tamil only,
But
okay.
with lots of songs, and that play's energy is like a zapped me the way they done it. I hope they will revive that play. We requested last year for them to
Where are they from?
Chennai only.
Chennai.
There was a director called Mangai is there.
My next question for you all, you'll have had, all of you have actually had an opportunity to perform your work all over the world. You'll have all, within India, of course, you've traveled a lot, but internationally also you have traveled a lot. And at the risk of offending some of our venues, what has been your favorite venue in the world to perform at, and why?
Prithvi Theatre. And I don't know. I just love that space. I think it does something to me, and that thing that I constantly feel. And I think I have talked about this. I think Prithvi helps you to be with the audience, and become very aware of the fact that everybody is holding a space together.
Right.
It doesn't
So
feel like
it's
there
a-
is an audience and
Yeah,
you
yeah,
are
it's like a
performing. It
community
feels
activity in
like
that sense, yes.
and also the way it feels like the audience is also holding you.
Nice.
And I am a very nervous performer. I constantly feel I will have a heart attack. I'll never get to the stage. And this is what I feel constantly, that I'll never be able to get myself up there. I will have
See
a heart
what you have
attack
to
before
deal
that.
with. So,
So I think it gives me immense comfort to be in Prithvi, because it feels like, there is an arm around you, like, when somebody hugs you like that, it feels
Kunal
that
is going to
way.
be so happy. All over the world, she chose Prithvi. It's a
that-
big one.
Unfortunately, I
Ah.
also say that same thing.
Prithvi, huh?
Yeah, because it's a history. 3 ways it is. One is my early performative career. We used to perform in temple land, open spaces, streets, everything. And it's not a structured space. And my first performance is what I done outside Kerala is Prithvi. That's one. And rest is earlier Veenapani used to be the manager of Prithvi. Running
First
Prithvi.
manager, I think.
First manager of Prithvi, running for 3 years. And you heard about folklore is all folklore, Prithvi related folklore, because India, we didn't have a space where all kinds of artists meet. It's ideally what you can, what French theatre movement have, that you have a cafes where people comes and sit and discuss, talk about it. We didn't have a space, or I never seen it in my life, that kind of space. And that's what I witnessed at that time. And before my generation, the folklore is Prahlad Kakar is cooking in the ring. Nina Gupta is doing the odd jobs to get this. So what you see is a dream space for all people to come together. So I think in a way that is influence, but as a performative space, it's a very secure place. As an actor.
Yes.
Like you can fine tune and fine balance lot of your faculty. You don't need to push your voice too much. So you can concentrate that much energy onto some of the other detailing you want to do it. And that's what space need to do. Otherwise, if I don't have a space 5 more feet away, means my entire anatomical biological clock is pushing for that vocal cord, rather by depleting 20% of my details.
Right.
So in a way, that is one space I really...
no, it is a venue that spoils you completely.
And
Spoils
it's not
you.
too cold. Oh my
But it can
God.
get
I
very
don't
cold.
think they
So-
No,
understand women's
that what I
temperature.
understand when she complained, because there is a study that will say that all AC's temperature is male centric, because female body always feel 10% less than that. Garka murgi hai na. So I love every spaces here that comes up or come, because that's how an Indian theatre maker do. They make it possible, whatever space they get it, into the best space in the world. That's how theatre survived in India. We have a very, very limited. We have the best foyer in the world and shit all backstage. That's how Indian theatre construction is. So thanks to all the practitioners who made their space lovable. We have I've seen it, actors going to some places and they themselves need to sweep and create the space to perform. But we still do that.
Right. You love that space. Yeah. Atul, any partiality for the Globe?
Yeah. No, it's a ridiculous place. I mean, Globe is not a yardstick,
Nice.
frankly.
We'll use that. In our promotions.
Please. But I will talk to you about one
Yeah.
very exciting space we performed in,
Right.
which was also quite lousy, actually. But it is also something that we hold very closely in our memory. And he's sitting here. Mantra, we all performed there. Was a bullfighting rink in Chile.
Yes.
Yeah,
I think Gitanjali
It
also
was,
spoke of
yeah,
it. Yes,
my
yes.
goodness. So we had an audience of about 5,000 people. I think that was it. We decided that day we have to either become a footballer or a rock star to get this kind of audience back. The whole town came to see the show, and there were, of course, massive screens put up. This is for Pia Bhe Rupiya, so we
Yes.
could song and dance. And the audience started coming in, I remember, and they kept coming in. And they kept coming in. For half an hour, they're still coming in. 1 hour, they were still coming in. It was a bullfighting ring. All got filled up. We were taken in a bus. So our green room was somewhere else, and then we all got ready. And then a bus, we made an entry onto the stage, and we thought, because they had put some chairs, some about 200 chairs in front as well.
In the arena.
Arena,
Yeah,
yes, and where the stage was built. What we did not know was that this will get filled up.
Wow.
So when we came in and we saw those many people, I think it was just, we were overwhelmed. And I think all of us we were all in tears, because it was like retribution for all those empty seats in Prithvi Theatre, where we did all our UNESCOs and Janés and nobody came to see, to suddenly have 5,000 people sitting watching Pia. It was crazy.
Lovely. Thank you. Thank you. We will open up this to any questions from the audience. Are there any? So
Hello, sir. Hello, ma'am. My question is it important to read theater books or acting books? If yes, then please recommend few books.
No, again, reading a book is very important because what you need to understand is when every book you read, you creating a visual stimuli within your brains and within your cortex and cognitive fields. And that is your own visual. Nobody else can create it. Okay. And you lives in a time where visuals are offered to you. Every story have a visual in public domain. And you stop doing creating your visual strip means I'm connecting this to the fundamental we all talk about imagination. The moment you don't charge or stimulate your or simulate your visual script, you stop doing your imagination because every permutation of what you need to enact is there available in one actor or another actor. You cut and paste it. So if you are thinking about imaginatively or creating an imagination, reading is an absolute. But I just say that don't read theater books. More than any theater books, I maybe got my entire universe is from Asterix and Obelix.
That's true.
It's my formative years is what Obelix is created or like or the dogmatics have a much more character because if you read the first Asterix, you will never see dogmatics. At the end, you see Obelix is picking up, and then you go back and you see every frame in corner, dogmatics is following it. Suddenly, it created, and this is a nightmare when I talk about visual scripts. Like most of the time, when you translate novels, most of the time it fails because the common visual imagery may not sync. So, for me, reading is very important as much as read, but don't need to read in a restricted manner. Anything. If nothing is the just Chandamama will work. I'm saying somebody said Chandamama, Vikram and Vedal is the first Christopher Nolan movie.
I think what really stimulates me is poetry. I think they have this immense quality to contain a human experience in few words, and I find that like immensely powerful. So, like Vinay said, don't restrict yourself to one thing. I think anything that you can lay your hand on. But I think, when words fail you is when really theater is born. Because you can't depend on your words in order to tell something. So you have to use other faculties. And that's what word did to me. So I would say that, restrict yourself to one thing, anything that you can lay your hand on. And I think a fine balance of fiction and non-fiction is what I would go for. And music. That we really struggle that in 1 hour to get the audience to an elevated state, and musicians just need to open their mouth in 2 seconds. They have them there.
Best. Any more questions? Yes.
I want to ask, will the will it work that person is working on a body and mind like yoga and meditation practice? Will that practice help someone to adapt the craft easily?
There's no guarantee, ma'am, that a person might go and live in Adishakti for the next 50 years, might not be able to say a word or step on stage. There's no guarantee that a person who's done yoga all his life is in touch with his chakras, is able to control his breath or that will definitely become an actor. There's no guarantee about that.
The point is like these are all fulcrum outside structures. And then what we need to understand the fallacy and the vulnerability of human emotion. Human emotion becomes civil because we fundamentally created certain tools like rational, analytical, free thinking. But at the moment of any human physical body experiencing an emotion, none of these faculties work. Cognitively, there is a blank space. You understand? So that's the vulnerability otherwise I'm teaching human emotion for last 30 years. Doesn't mean that I will be a controlling factor on, I can understand, but that doesn't mean that I don't have this emotion.
Well, thank you. That's all we have time for. This was an absolutely wonderful conversation. I think
Thank
that
you.
just listening to you guys has opened my mind a little bit. So I think that it was a very successful conversation. I wish we could talk longer, and I think we will offline.
Yes.
Yes,
But
yes.
thank you so much for being here. This was absolutely Wonderful.
Thank you,
Thank you.
Adyam, and
Thank
giving
you.
us a
Thank you so
platform.
much.
Thank you, Akash. Thank you.